people have to stop going into these complicated matters with simple minds and simple ideas. Oh, here's the good ones and here are the bad ones. And now the whole Europe and the US everybody's behind Ukraine, which is normal. It's a country that is being invaded by Russia, and everybody's behind the whole Europe, that we are behind you. And at a point, I'm asking myself, like, when is Europe going to stop being hypocrites? Because they are in part responsible for everything that is happening right now. I don't have like a timeline. Like, listen, I come here, I didn't come prepared. I don't have a timeline of the events of how we arrived here in front of me. I could go get on Instagram, like, let me see, timeline. Timeline of the crisis. Now the problem is, like, if you look at, that's the problem here. When you look at a few of those things from the point of view of one side or another, they're not just giving you the facts. They're giving you opinions or facts dressed as opinions, or opinions dressed as facts. And this is always the problem. But I mean, let's try. In 1991, Ukraine becomes independent at the fall of the Soviet Union, right? That's really how, the Ukrainian people became their own. It's actually a huge country of 45 million people, and 30% of them, I think more or less 40% are Russian speaking or from Russian descent, especially in the east, of course. And then on the west, you have I saw a map of, and I've been watching I've been trying to, the things people don't do is they see a bomb exploding and they just let go their emotions. And everybody's either angry, happy, ready to go to war, etc., right? I tend to look at things from a little bit of distance and try to understand what is going on and why it is going on. And try to understand, like, and then the more I'm seeing the things that are happening, I'm like, yo, like, look, in 1994, there has been, we're coming. There has been, in 1994, a memorandum that has been signed in 1994, where the Ukrainian accepted to, back in the Cold War, when the USSR was against the USA and the world was divided in two big blocks. The one who followed the USSR and the other one that would follow the US and the Allies, the 60s. A lot of the Russian nuclear power was actually, what up, MJ? A lot of the Russian nuclear power was actually in Ukraine. There was a lot. So in 1994, Ukraine accepted to transfer all the weapons from the Cold War to the Russian Federation, making Ukraine a non-nuclear power. So they kind of gave their I would say, like the weapon of dissuasion, they just gave it back to Russia in exchange of, making sure that nobody would disrespect the sovereignty and the territory of Ukraine. So, who signed that deal was Russia, the US, and the UK. They all said, listen, too much nuclear weapons here, give it back. Because you have to understand something about the US, the UK, France, Russia, and all these countries. They want to have the nuclear power. They want to be able, they are the only ones who used it. They build the weapons. They get money from the wars. But they keep telling everybody, we don't want you to have the weapons as well because you evil, we are the good people. They believe, and they are not hypocrites. They truly believe that they are in the good side. All right. So, this document was signed following Ukraine agreement to transfer all nuclear weapons from the Cold War to the Russian Federation, making Ukraine a non-nuclear power. Prior to this, Ukraine had physical possession of the world's third largest nuclear stockpile. In addition to Ukraine, the Budapest Memorandum was signed by the United States, United Kingdom, and Russia. All the signatories committed to honoring Ukraine's sovereignty and the right to its territory. So, you give all your nuclear weapons. In exchange, we let you live your life. All right? In 2004, there was the Orange Revolution. And a little bit of history. Let's read and learn. In 2004, the Orange Revolution overturns the election results. So, there was a Western-oriented candidate, and then there was another one supported by Russia, and then the one that was more West-oriented was poisoned just before the election. And then victory was declared in favor of the other one, the one that was Russian. Everybody knew it was a fraud. The Ukrainian went to the street all wearing orange, which was the campaign of the guy who was more at the West. And then they forced a revolt and Yushchenko won. Of course, the US, the CIA were behind, trying to meddle in the country as they always do. Right? So, in 2008, so we have to understand something. The NATO, which is the military that is protecting Europe, but is actually controlled by the US in reality, and the rest of European countries, but it's the US puppet. When the NATO was created during the Cold War to make sure that against the USSR, there was a protection from the NATO, right? So when the USSR disappeared and collapsed and a bunch of countries took their independence, there was no need for the NATO anymore, right? And that's when they signed these accords of non-nuclear proliferation, etc. When these mass electronic calm down, We're coming. Slow down. My God, these guys. You can't control Congolese people. So when the USSR was done, there was no need for NATO anymore. Right? And they were supposed to just stay there. But as always, what did they do? You know, you have to understand one thing about empires. Empires don't want to die. The US and the Europeans, they believe in their core that they are the good guys. They believe in their core that their ways are the good ways. They believe that because their ways based on their past, the fact that, you know, they are the intelligence, they are the etc., and they won the Cold War. They believe that democracy and their ways to be, their ways to see things, their ways to see culture, their culture, they believe that this is the way. And because they believe it, they want the whole world to think like them, but they also want the whole world to be free like them. So they want to free people. Even if you don't feel that they want to free you. They want you to be in democracy. They want you to have a democracy that looks like France or the UK, or so they go everywhere and they tried. So after the Cold War, even when we had the independence in all the African countries, France, Belgium, the UK, all these countries were trying to force other countries to mimic their ways, their democracies. Oh, listen, no more dictators, or no more one person, or no tribal. No. You have to think like us. Oh, no more praying Mami Wata and all these strange. No. Jesus. So indeed, they have been doing this for centuries. So of course, when the USSR collapsed, instead of staying in their lane and saying, hey, listen, guys, welcome to freedom and start building your countries, and you know, we need Europe to be peaceful, etc., they started trying to expand Europe. In the US, they wanted, because the US always needed an enemy so they can sell weapons, and they make money from this, and they need the dollar to be supreme everywhere. So these people started thinking, for us to have peace in Europe, and because we believe that we are the good guys, we need every country in the East to start becoming like us in the West, because we are the good guys. We think the right way. The same way they went to Congo, to all these countries in Africa to bring us, you know, turn us into the next level of humans, with their religions, with their way of life, and with their democracy. They always use this to just try to transform everybody into just like in the West. They don't believe that there's a possibility that other people just think different, and that other society evolved their own way. They really believe that if you don't think like them, and if you don't do exactly like them, right, they will start treating you like either dictatorship or obscurantism or etc., etc. So they've been doing it forever with the everywhere that, of course, there's oil, or in Africa. They've been doing it, and they've been doing it in the West as well. So they've been trying to have Ukraine become more Western, because they really want their influence to be everywhere. It's kind of stronger than them. They believe that they have the truth of how to live, and they want everybody to live like them. They want everybody to be free, everybody to have internet, everybody to call themselves fluffies and whatever. Like they want that. Listen, it's normal to believe that your culture is a great culture, but it's another thing trying to force it to everybody, or trying to think that making everybody think like you is gonna be good for everybody. Because sometimes it's more complicated than that. That's why I said, don't bring simple minds or simple concepts to complicated matters. So in 2008, and at the same time, the Americans, who are an imperialist, neo-colonialist country, right? They want everybody to be part of NATO. So imagine you, Russia. Listen, wait. I'm not here to defend Russia. Like, what they did is crazy. It's fucked up, actually. Like, I stand with Ukraine. I'm dressed in yellow and there's blue there. So you listen. But, you know, I'm trying to see things from a little bit of perspective. NATO was useless at the end of the USSR. Europe should have its own army. Europe, if it wants to be a bloc that has a future in the conversation of the world, even if they are very rich from all the things they did years before, Europe should have removed itself from NATO and create its own European force, so that they can have a say in what goes on in the world, instead of just following most of the time what the US says. And the US is happy when everybody uses the dollar, and when this dollar is, all the petrol and gas is sold in dollar, and they can use the dollar as a geopolitical weapon. And they can decide who, plays in the game and who doesn't. So if you do things the way they don't want, they remove you from the game. They remove you from SWIFT, or they put sanction in you. But when they do exactly what Russia did, so for those who don't know, who don't remember, or were too young back then, the US did exactly what Russia is doing right now. In 2008, I think, in Yugoslavia, Yugoslavia became Kosovo, right? But the US, without asking the permission of nobody, went and invaded Yugoslavia. And they didn't ask permission with and in the UN, they just went in. They invaded Iraq. destroyed everything. The French and the US invaded Libya. And they have fancy names, Desert Eagle, all these names of operation. They go in and they say, yeah, we're bombing these people for freedom. That's exactly what Olga said about what the Russians are saying about Ukraine. That we came to free the people. That's exactly what France, Europe, the US, they do when they invade other country. So they said that Iraq had weapons of mass destructions, and they believe that they are the only one who have the right to own them. So they went there, and boom, the US has backed for years the pillage of Congo by Rwanda. The US is give them everything they need, weapons, etc., etc. And all the coltan of Congo now goes through Rwanda. As long as it serves them, the US have no problem doing exactly what Russia has just did. As long as it serves them, the EU have no problem doing everything. So, Olga, we cannot put links in the chat. Send me by WhatsApp. Add your link to the chat. So, at a point, even if Russia is wrong by doing what they're doing, you also have to be able to look at the stance that everybody's taking right now, right? And calling them for the hypocrisy a little bit, saying, guys, come on. Like, so when somebody does it, it's evil. But when you do it, it's for freedom. Yo. So we have listen, my whole continent has been invaded. Listen, I speak French. That's my mother tongue, just to tell you. So the same thing. Now it was to help you not be savages. Yeah, we built roads there. That no, you came to take our materials. And that's how these empires do. So, in the point of view of Russia, it's not to defend them. It's just to give you the point of view that might be what somebody like Putin, who's somebody from the last century, right? It's somebody that came from KGB, who was there when his empire fell. And maybe he's nostalgic of that time when all these brothers were one in the same house. And yeah, maybe he's pissed off that his ex-Ukraine is trying to go to the enemy. And listen, Ukrainian people should be able to do their own choice. If they want to become part of Europe, it's their choice. If they want to become part of NATO, it's their choice too. The problem here is that the EU and NATO has been telling Ukraine all the time, come, you'll be part of it. When in reality, they don't want, because they had this deal that they did when we were not born, or maybe when we were kids, telling, listen, Russia, the Cold War is over. You stay on your corner, we stay in our corner, and you're gonna remove all your soldiers everywhere, and we're gonna we're gonna remove our soldiers. But what NATO did this whole time was expand, 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 become bigger, and be all around Russia. And for somebody like Putin, I'm not in his head, but he might be like, yo, it's a lot of these guys all around me now. And so I've seen 20 years ago videos of Putin saying, listen, you can do whatever you want, but I don't want. Yep, there you go. They said, whatever you want, I don't want American armies, the people who defeated us. I don't want them near my borders. And what is near the borders? Ukraine. So if you see it from the point of view of somebody who's feeling surrounded, imagine if people like the Americans, imagine if Canada and Mexico, which is exactly on the north of America, the United States, and Mexico, which is south, had Chinese bases with missiles. The Americans would go crazy, but they don't see a problem doing it for Russia by trying to install themselves in Ukraine and promising Ukraine, yeah, you're gonna be part of the club. Come. And all of these people have been lying to Ukraine. And the problem here is the hubris of the winners. The Americans and the Europeans, they believe that, yeah, they're cool, they're the best. They are, you know how they call themselves? They call everybody else the axis of evil, and they call themselves the land of the free. And so once you start saying all these things, and when people ask you, but why do we need NATO for? Why don't we remove all these weapons that are creating crisis? And why are you keep saying that Putin is a crazy dictator, that Xi Jinping is? Because the Americans need enemies. They need to create these enemies and talk about them all the time and how crazy they are. Like small countries like North Korea, they're trying to force North Korea to remove their weapons, but North Korea know, if we lose the nuclear power, these people will eat us, because that's how they are. They have been traitors forever. That's what they do. They lie. And that's why, yeah, they're scared. They're like, they poke with them, but they don't touch them. It's a small country. And this is the problem now. When you have countries who believe that the only truth is their truth, they start insulting the rest, poking at them for years and years and years, and they create resentment. They create China. China is looking. China is like, let me see, because China is asking themselves, should we invade Taiwan? Because China is the same thing. For China, the Chinese, they see their territory, and they see Hong Kong as China. And for them, they don't even understand how Hong Kong for all this time was English. And they say, yeah, they signed a treaty. Oh, listen, we're going to have like two different things for 80 years or whatever. But in reality, they hate that. They want to get back the integrity of their territory. The problem of Europe First of all, Europe are here going, oh my God, war in, listen, all the wars of the last century was in Europe, and all the weapons are built there, if it's not the US. So the West, come on. The thing is this: if France lost Corsica or Lorraine or anywhere of their territory, they would go crazy. But they cannot understand that other people are crazy about it. Look, we right now in France, in the UK, in Spain, not Spain, in Spain, Spain with the Barcelona part, with a lot of countries in Europe, people are actually saying to themselves, why are we part of this? We don't want to be part of this. Or we part of this, but we don't accept all their laws. We want some sovereignty as a country. Like France are the worst in that. They always complain about Europe for everything, for this, for the norms, for that, Because when they got in Europe, or when they created Europe, sorry, they thought they could sell all their shit to the Portuguese. But because the Portuguese were poor at that time, it's actually the Portuguese who start selling all their shit to France. So now the France are pissed. Oh, this doesn't work for me. Because these people, they have a strange way of thinking. And they're here thinking, all of these people are talking about their sovereignty. We have to be a strong country. We are France. We don't want to just be Europe, right? And at the same time, all these countries are traumatized by the 2 world wars that they started in their countries. And they are trying to not get there anymore. So they are in kind of contradiction. But now imagine if you told France, yo, listen, yeah, take a chunk the size of Ukraine, take all the south, tell the PACA region, so take Marseille, Nice, La Côte d'Azur, take that whole part, and it just becomes its own country. And then Russia, they have a deal with Russia, or they decide now we're gonna speak Russian, and Russia start putting missiles there. France will go crazy. France will not let that happen, because in their head they believe that when it's happened to the others, it's normal because it's for freedom, and they are not. They need to understand freedom. They need to embrace Christianity, etc. But when it happens to us, this is what? No, because we've been here for millenniums, and they're gonna tell you all the things that Putin is saying right now. They're gonna tell it. They're gonna tell it like it's normal, because that's the way they think, and it's not even their fault. That's the way they are built. This is the way they see the world. They see the world as in this form of neo-colonialism, where everything they do is for good, and they never take accountability, responsibility for all the mistakes they did all these last 100 years. And here where we are, some people wake up and their countries are in flames, and everybody blames Russia because Russia is the aggressor. But nobody, when I see all these countries in all the European countries in solidarity, oh, thank you so much, Sirène des Îles. When I see all these countries in solidarity with Ukraine, I look at them and I'm like, you are also part of the problem. You are part of the problem. You are the ones who have been trying to turn the whole East Europe into Western Europe. Listen, life goes and people change, and populations change, and people start dancing kizomba, etc. Listen, it's normal. This is evolution. I understand that. But at the same time, you have the whole way these people try to also implement their culture everywhere. They try to have everybody drink Coca-Cola. They have everybody use dollar. Listen now, in Congo, in my country, we use dollar more than our own money. And the Americans are happy, and the Congolese are happy as well. But they don't understand that one day you can get removed from SWIFT just like they did to Angola, and you lose all your power. If you get too cocky or you start getting too much money, they can remove your stuff. Look at what the people are doing right now because of the emotional reaction. How you gonna tell me that? And listen, I'm just freestyling, so listen, don't mind me. I'm just a singer talking. But how you gonna tell me that all the Russian football team cannot play football with the FIFA anymore? Like, we don't even know what they think. But no, done. All the Grand Prix, the drivers cannot participate in Grand Prix. All the oligarchs or anybody who has money, we're gonna start taking everything back from them. When you're gonna have they just brought in, like, now they're starting to say, hey, listen, everybody that is Russian cannot be part of cryptocurrencies anymore. Wait a minute. But you don't even know what these people think. No, we have to show them, we have to, like, but you're gonna create more resentment, and you're gonna have people who didn't really care. Now they starting to hate you too. But let me ask you something. When the US invaded Iraq with zero reason other than seizing the oil out there and just expanding their empire, did we stop them from playing football? Because that was, listen, when the US invaded and bombed Kosovo, Yugoslavia, it was also an invasion. But when is the US, we don't want to call this invasion? Did we stop them from playing football, from all these sanctions? Did we do anything? No, we didn't. Because they are the rulers of the world. And for them, the rules don't apply. And to me, like, Putin's decision is crazy. The aggression he's doing to my friends in Ukraine is horrible. But the reaction from the West is hypocrite as fuck. I know, Olga. Don't mind. So, you know, that's this thing where even if you are, you know, I try to see the world never in black and white. Never. I try to always look at all the different I try to look at everything at the different shades of, and try to have a little bit of, you know, take a few steps back so I can try to see enough and understand the geopolitical thing that is going on. So in 2008, there's been a NATO summit, and the debate was, why are you guys expanding to Ukraine? And they wanted to do a military alliance between 28 European countries two North American countries dedicated to preserving peace and security in the North Atlantic area. And Putin said no. In Ukraine, no. That was in 2008. And in 2013, there was a Euromaidan protest that changed the government. After promising to work towards a relationship with the European Union, President Yanukovych, who ran for president again and won in 2010, changes political direction and begins to orient Ukraine towards Russia. These, combined with two controversial arrests of opponent Yulia Tymoshenko, sparked widespread protests about perceived government corruption. These are protests across the country, etc., etc. Centering on the Maidan Square at Kiev, at least 130 people were killed, civilians. Yanukovych flees to Russia, and then a new leadership commits to orienting Ukraine towards the European Union. In 2014, Russia seized Crimea, creating international outrage. Russia seized Crimea, a Ukrainian peninsula with a predominantly ethnic Russian population in the aftermath of the Euromaidan protests. Russian troops occupy key sites on the peninsula, wearing military uniforms with Russian insignia removed. The annexation prompts international outrage and is condemned by the United Nations and the European Union. In 2019, Volodymyr Zelensky is elected president of Ukraine. Former comedian defeated the pro-Russia Petro Poroshenko in a presidential election. Zelensky party also wins a majority of seats in the parliament. This is a first in Ukrainian history. Zelensky campaign promised to include ending the war with Russia and rooting corruption out of the Ukrainian government. In 2021, Putin demanded security guarantees. Putin deploys increasing number of troops near the Ukrainian border and published an article claiming that the Russians and Ukrainians are one people. That's how he feels. And then Putin issued demands to NATO and the United States. Among these demands is that Ukraine never be admitted to NATO, a request rejected by the Biden administration. 2022, February, Russia recognized a breakaway Ukrainian region as sovereign. Sends troops to keep the peace, and then in February 24, Russia launches a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So the thing is here, like, who to blame? Putin. I can only blame him for 70%. I have to give 30% to the US and the US and Europe, NATO, and the ever expansionism of their idea that everybody has to become like them, to live the way they live, to enjoy and to forget their culture the way they want. Like all these, you know what I mean? And yeah, listen, there's a lot of posing, in my opinion, and everybody knows that they don't want to go to war, so they will try to put sanctions, they will, but China says nothing. China says nothing. There's been a deal signed. So, and every European country also has a different dependency to the European gas, the Russian gas. You also have to understand that in the whole, to complicate the whole thing. First of all, I know you love me. I love you too. So you have to understand one thing. Germany, for example, is dependent when it's cold on Russian gas at 60%. The Americans would love Germany to buy American gas instead of Russian gas. France, I think, is 20%. And every country has different percentages. But if the gas doesn't arrive, like let's say next winter, let's say next winter, the gas doesn't arrive in Germany anymore because Germany did a choice, you know. Germany did a choice that was a choice of to completely end nuclear power, not arm, but for electricity, and stop coal as well, to become a green country. But they are 80 million people. They had not enough infrastructure, green infrastructure. So what they had to do when they did those choices was to start buying the electricity from France that has nuclear energy, and to also buy the gas from Russia. So they have this pipe from Gazprom that arrived directly in Germany. And when they say, oh, we cut Russia from SWIFT, that's not true. They cut some banks, because you have to understand one thing. When you do sanctions in a world where everybody is connected, when you start doing sanctions, those sanctions don't just go on one side. They go on both sides. Let me give you an example. If you beef with China and you say, starting now, no smartphone built in China can be sold in the US. It's over. China can reply to you, well, we will not build anything for you anymore. And by the way, iPhones cannot be sold in China anymore. And Apple lose 50% of their revenue. You lose 50%, that 50% of the taxes that it brings to you. It's not just like, we're gonna do this, and it's like, no, listen, this is for TV. In reality, when you stop talking to your ex, when you have a girlfriend, it's over. Well, you're not gonna fuck anymore. It's over. You're gonna be with other people, but she's gonna be with other people too. And maybe when she's gonna be with other people, you're gonna start crying. This is the reality of life. But you're gonna be everywhere to your boy saying, yeah, fuck that bitch, I don't care anymore. I'm free. And then you're gonna see her walking with somebody else. And you're gonna be like, what is this pain that I feel? This is the reality of life. This is the reality of economics in a world where everybody is connected, where the resources are between all the poor countries have the resources and all the rich countries have the money. But the resources have to go somewhere. So you have all these resources in China, in Africa, in Russia, and then you have all these people who pretend they're gonna cut you the money, but they need you. Don't forget that Ukraine is, I think, 70. Listen, my numbers, I'm not reading the numbers here, so let me see. Wait, let me give you real numbers. Ukraine, how you say blé? Fuck. How you say production, exports? Let me see. How much wheat does? Is wheat? Is wheat? Yeah. By country. That's exactly true. Exactly. Olga, what you're saying is completely true, and it is true for Ukraine, but it's also true for Iraq or Libya. And my problem here with these countries, right, all these hypocrites, is that when it's Ukraine, they all stand up, but when it's Iraq, they all clap. I know that there's a lot of wheat that is, I think Ukraine does a lot of wheat and maize for Egypt, Turkey, to a lot of countries, you know, like, and so we also have to think about that part as well in terms of yeah, it's wheat. All these countries are interconnected. Don't forget that everything that we use is manufactured. I mean, everything electronic that we use is manufactured between China and Taiwan. The wheat is in Ukraine. The gas, usually a lot of it comes from Russia. And don't forget that in France, we had the yellow vest that started from it started from the price of oil and gas. People were saying they cannot spend all that money on oil and gas when they make so little money every month. But when there's a war where the gas come from, oil, gas, and electricity prices will go up. And the same people who were complaining will complain even more. And they're gonna be like, yo, what the hell are you guys doing? And I'm not gonna say simple minds, simple people that don't care about all this. They just wanna work, come home, feed their families. And it's those simple people, those honest working families exist in Ukraine, they exist in Russia, they exist in Iraq, they exist in France as well, they exist in Portugal. If the price of oil goes up, and it went up, I don't know how many percent, 30%, I think, I forgot the numbers. All these people are the people who are suffering from this whole operation. So there's a lot of people who saying, yeah, let's go to war. Let's go. Like, listen, what you need is diplomacy right now. What you need is to sit down with the aggressor and sit down with the victim of the aggression, sit with them and start talking, start telling them, hey, listen, let's, like, FIFA and all these people saying, no more Russians in not. Listen, what you need to do is have ambassadors, diplomats, and the people who know these things come and tell the people, let's sit and please stop bombing the people. Stop bombing all the honest families that have nothing to do with whatever you think of the grandeur of Ukraine, of Russia, sorry, and let the people decide who they want to be. And same thing for Europe. Stop having all these and sit down with the people and have these people sit down so that there's a de-escalation of the situation. And yeah, listen, We know what the Russians want. They want to remove this guy and put somebody who's friends with them, and they want also the Americans and the Europeans to not have. Listen, I mean, I don't even know if he cares about Ukraine. I mean, he does care, but I think the problem is if Ukraine becomes European, it means that he's part of the NATO as well. I'm not sure it works, but what he doesn't want is to have the old enemy being in front of his borders. He's been saying this for 20 years. This is not a new problem. This has been going on forever. He's like, yo, since the end of the Cold War, you have been installing your missiles all around us. And we don't like this. It's the same way when you hear the Franks saying, oh, the Chinese are buying everything. They're buying all our companies. They're not happy. It's the same thing. The empires don't like to lose. So at a point, you're arriving to this situation where you're gonna have to sit those two down. I mean, they're already sitting. They're already starting having conversation, and they need to come and sit down. And the Russians will say, listen, we want this, this, and this. Probably they will say, we don't want you to be part of the NATO because we don't want American weapons near us, and we don't want us to be part of Europe, maybe. And yeah, we don't want you as a president. So they will negotiate, they will find a solution, and maybe on the Ukrainian side, they will say, we want immediate ceasefire. We want all the troops removed from here. And okay, maybe we will not be in the NATO. Maybe we can sign this somewhere. Who knows? And listen, don't think this is not hurting Russia. The more this goes, and the more, of course, it is hurting the Russian economy and the normal Russian, the normal person who has nothing to do with this, who just want to chill with their iPhone, watch YouPorn. All these people, they're like, what the fuck? Like when I was in Ukraine, actually, it was full of Russians, Armenians, Ukrainians, and everybody was there, like brothers and sisters. I was not seeing the difference between one or the other. The same way I don't really see. I mean, I can see the difference between a French and a Belgian and an English. I can see because I've been in Europe for so long. But I mean, you see what I mean? It was just everybody was there dancing, being happy, and being friends. And oh, we just came from St. Petersburg, and we just came for the love of Kizomba, and yeah, everybody was speaking Russian. So I mean, I didn't understand what people were talking, but it was just, and we knew that not far from there was Lugansk and the whole Donbass area was not far, it was an hour away. So I was like, you see what I mean? So it's this thing where all of a sudden you have somebody who has been, who's, if you have, I'm not trying to understand his mind, but he's into his chess moves. I believe that attacking civilians and going too hard on his own brothers from Ukraine, that was the mistake of Putin, in my opinion. Not those, eh? That's true. Oh my God.